This is a book about a woman called Lily Beer, who was obliged to flee in the 1920s to America from Ireland under a death sentence from the IRA. Her husband, or the man she was hoping to marry, was in a lot greater trouble than she was. And this little part of the book is set some good few years after she's got to America. She's working in Cleveland in a mansion in Shaker Heights. She's a servant. And a great deal of the fear that she's felt of being followed has passed away. But there's always that little tincture in her. And this is a small thing that happens, and she doesn't know whether it's the thing she's feared or not. And this is how she talks about it. Again, writing about it as a very old woman of 89. The mansion was set at the end of its street and the road ended there. Automobiles often came in unawares and had to turn in the little sweep at the top where the gates of the Bellew house were. Every house had a coach house and places for tradesmen to park. You didn't see many automobiles on the sidewalk, so this day, coming home with the heavy bags, I did take note of an old jalopy stuck up on the dirt edge under the old oaks that finished the vista. And leaning against the jalopy in question was a man. I don't know what he'd been doing up till then, but I felt that when he spotted me coming in the distance, he rather hurriedly turned the crank on his engine and sat into his vehicle, slamming the loose, thin door. Then he didn't look at me again the whole way, but kept his face turned towards the scrubby oaks in an unlikely preoccupation with them. When in some trembling I reached the house and turned down the great latch and started to swing the huge iron gates open just a little to allow me to pass through, he still didn't turn his head. I saw him make a little movement and dip right towards the passenger seat. I don't know why that startled me so, but a fear came into me, like a great crowd of rats entering a warm house. Here's the moment, I thought, when he turns and gets out and points the gun, and I am to be killed. I pressed my weight against the gates, and even the tiny gap I had needed to enter seemed to take an age to close. I suddenly sensed how vulnerable I was, how vulnerable any human creature was, bones and flesh, all permeable to a bullet. I was trying to close the gate, I know not why, and he could have leapt out and shot me a dozen times. Why did I not just run like a demon? The human brain is not a logical machine. It was dark under those oaks. The generous light of June that ran its fingers through the dry leaves made the shadows all the deeper. In a strange slow motion I closed the gate and stood there looking back. I thought, is this the man that took Tig? Suddenly all I could think of was Tig, the fact of Tig, the remnant of him in me, how he lived in my heart, obliterated all my present fear. I was surging with love for Tig. My messages, as Dublin people say, my packages, had fallen from my arms. I had not even noticed. They were lying now at my feet outside the gate, carrots, sugar, coffee as may be. The man got out of the car and stood in the shadows. His dry-looking hat caused another shadow over his face and eyes. Then I said something that made no sense and makes no sense even now. Is it me? I said. That's all I said. I waited for the answer with a weird patience. I could not see his face, but I could feel him looking at me. I was dressed in my sole summer dress with a pattern of olives and leaves all over it. Well, I remember it. Cassie loved that dress, though it was a cheap thing from the Hungarian market. As he watched me, though, I began to feel naked. Like that dream I used to have when I was a school child, the dream of being in class and looking down and realizing I had forgotten to put my clothes on. I felt oddly out of place, clumsy. I don't know how to describe that feeling. I felt like I was dying in front of him. This next tiny piece in the book is a good deal later than the last one, and Lily's enjoying a certain amount of safety and has married Joe Kinderman. And she's not absolutely sure about Joe Kinderman. He's a rather mysterious sort of a man. But this is just a little passage where she's looking at him, or remembering herself looking at him in the first part of their marriage. And while he's shaving, he's singing a wonderful little bluegrass song called Little Birdie. So I was watching him the next morning as he performed his ablutions in the little bathroom. Ferocious splashing of the face and neck, vigorous warblings, and him singing Little Birdie, Little Birdie. Shaving always gave him some pain because his skin was tender and inclined to red spots and little wheals, hardly noticed, so he might sing a line of the song, Little birdie, a little birdie, and give a yelp, and then go on with, Why do you fly so high, scraping away all the while valiantly? There is a certain courage needed in a man like that in the matter of shaving every morning. Then he was applying his unguents, whose nature I didn't know, but it was called silver birch balsam on the little tin, I do remember. And he was mixing up in a pestle and mortar some stuff he bought in little packets from the drugstore, and what they were I couldn't know, and he didn't say. But when he knocked a bit of water into it, there was a slightly unpleasant, worrying acid smell. And as he applied it to his poor raw face, I was fearing for him that he might burn the cheeks off of himself. Then a huge wash again, copiously applying the lovely cool water of America, and shaking of his head, and all the while the little song kept going in broken snatches and silences and groans. It's because I am, silence, a true little bird, silence, and do not fear to die. Then he was throwing the uniform dutifully and excellently ironed by myself onto the bed, which was my viewing station just then, before I would launch myself into the day and fry up his eggs and bread. Grabbed the whole thing on the hanger and with a small violence cast it onto the bed. Dear Joe. And he was climbing into the trouser legs then, tottering in his vest and pants. A man dressing in the morning, in his youth. My husband, my beloved, and truly I loved that man.